A hunter in southern Georgia reported a hog track in the mud that measured longer than his boot. He reported it to the state wildlife office. He said the animal had moved through a stand of timber and left ground sign, unlike anything he had seen in 30 years of hunting that county. No photograph survived. No cast was made. The report was filed and nothing more came of it, until a hog was killed nearby and its carcass entered the record. National Geographic experts who later exhumed that animal estimated it at 7.5 to 8 feet long, weighing around 800 pounds. The original claims had been 1,000 pounds, 12 feet. The scientists cut those numbers nearly in half. But the science did not end there. DNA analysis confirmed what the carcass suggested. The animal was a hybrid, domestic pig crossed with Eurasian wild boar. Neither species alone accounts for what was found. The combination does. That result changed the shape of the question. The issue was no longer whether the stories were exaggerated. The issue was what the biology was now capable of producing, and where it was doing so. What USDA APHIS has documented is this. Feral swine in the United States are not a single animal. They are a mixture. Escaped domestic pigs, Eurasian wild boars introduced for sport hunting in the early 1900s, and the hybrids those two populations produced when they met in the wild. The agency classifies them as a dangerous, destructive, invasive species. Their minimum annual damage toll, $3.4 billion. And the hybrids carry something neither parent line alone possessed: the size potential of domestic breeds fused with the cold weather endurance of the boar. The result is an animal the continent had not seen before, and it is spreading. The American South did not simply tolerate the feral hog. It engineered it. No wolves remain in the bottomlands of Texas and Louisiana. The mountain lion exists in fragments, pressed to the margins. The black bear, where it survives at all, does not hunt full-grown swine. What arrived into the American Southeast and Gulf Coast arrived into a vacuum, a continental interior stripped of the predators that once enforced biological limits. Into that vacuum, mild winters, abundant mast, crop fields running unbroken to the horizon. A feral hog in Georgia can root through standing corn from September through November, then move to acorn flats when the oaks drop. In Mississippi, a herd can winter on rice stubble and river bottom browse without losing condition. There is no season that starves them. There is no cold that kills the hybrids. The domestic bloodline carries fat metabolism tuned for growth. The boar bloodline carries dense underfur and the physiological architecture for survival at 40 below. Together, in the mild thermocline of the South, they do not merely survive, they compound. A sow can be reproductively active at 6 months. She can produce multiple litters in a single year. The Alberta study, published in Scientific Reports, recorded pregnant females with a median litter size of 5 fetuses, and noted births distributed across every month of the calendar. In Canada, those numbers track against a harsh northern winter. In Arkansas, in Tennessee, in the warm corridors of the lower Mississippi, the math accelerates. By 1990, 2 million feral pigs ranged across 20 states. 25 years later, that number had tripled, 38 states. The expansion moved north into Oregon, into Pennsylvania, into Ohio, into New Hampshire, latitudes where biologists had long assumed winters would hold the line. They did not hold the line. The proof arrived from Canada. University of Saskatchewan researcher Ryan Brook spent 14 years handling wild pigs in the northern range. The largest individual he weighed came in at 290 kilograms, 638 pounds. Not a carnival claim, a measured animal on a scale. USDA records place the average adult feral swine between 75 and 250 pounds. Brook's specimen was 2.5 times that ceiling. In Alberta, from 2018 to 2024, wildlife managers removed 362 wild pigs across 57 capture events. 68% of mature females were reproductively active. The smallest pregnant female on record weighed 38 kilograms. She measured 77.5 centimeters in body length, barely the size of a medium dog, and she was already carrying a litter. The biology does not wait for conditions to become favorable. It adapts to the conditions that exist. The measurement problem is straightforward. A feral hog dies in a remote drainage in East Texas, or along a flooded creek bottom in Missouri. No scale is present. No biologist is present. The hunter who finds it is carrying a rifle, not a tape measure. The photograph that survives shows the carcass against a truck bed, against a man's outstretched arm, against whatever context happened to be available. These are the conditions under which the size record gets made, or gets missed. The verified floor is not nothing. USDA APHIS documents individuals reaching twice the average weight, bodies in the 500-pound range. The University of Saskatchewan's Ryan Brook, after 14 years of field study, handled a specimen in Canada weighing 290 kilograms. That is 638 pounds on a verified scale, by a researcher whose career is built on these numbers. Below that ceiling, and above average, the record goes dark. Not because nothing is out there, because nothing with a scale and a permit was standing next to it when it died. Absence of documentation is not absence of the animal, it is the shape of the problem. The explanation has a name: heterosis, hybrid vigor. The phenomenon is well documented in livestock science and well understood in theory, though its consequences in the field are still being measured. When two genetically distant populations interbreed, the offspring do not simply average the traits of their parents, they exceed them. The domestic pig carries centuries of selective pressure toward rapid growth, dense musculature, and high body mass. The Eurasian wild boar carries something different: a deep cold-weather metabolism, low body fat insulation strategies, and a skeletal frame built for decades of hard terrain. Separately, each is a capable animal. Combined, the offspring inherits the size potential of the domestic line and the physiological endurance of the boar, without the liabilities of either parent. The resulting hybrid can reach weights that neither ancestor could sustain in the wild. The University of Saskatchewan documented this directly. Ryan Brook, who spent 14 years studying wild pigs in Canada, reported the largest individual he personally handled weighed 290 kilograms. That is 638 pounds. Not an estimate from a trail camera, not a hunter's account. A handled, measured animal. For reference, the official USDA range for adult wild swine in the United States tops out at 250 pounds. The Canadian specimen nearly tripled it. The mechanism is not unique to pigs. Africanized honeybees, the product of a similar hybridization between African and European strains, demonstrated the same principle at a different scale. Offspring of two manageable populations produced something neither parent population could have become alone. The traits that made each parent viable in its native environment combined into a new configuration that was viable everywhere. In the pig, the configuration is also self-reinforcing. The Alberta study, published in Scientific Reports, recorded that 68% of mature females were reproductively active. A sow can begin bearing litters at 6 months. Each litter averages 5. The body grows. The breeding continues. The range expands. Heterosis does not require a plan. It requires opportunity. The continent provided both the genetic raw material and the geography to run the experiment at scale. The measurement problem is not reluctance. It is architecture. Feral swine in North America occupy terrain that resists systematic study. River bottomlands choked with cane. Swamp margins where standing water makes approach impractical for months at a time. Hardwood ridges in the Ozarks where a hunter can hear something moving through brush at 30 yards and never see it clearly. The animals are largely nocturnal. They cover ground in darkness, bed in dense cover by morning, and move again before light returns. When one is killed, the sequence that follows destroys most of the data. The carcass is field-dressed at the site. Weight is estimated by the person standing there, using the same calibration used for white-tailed deer, an animal built on entirely different proportions. The gut pile stays. The hide, which carries the most reliable indicator of frame size, is often left or discarded within hours. What reaches a processor is a partial carcass. What reaches a scale, if it reaches one at all, is already less than what walked out of the tree line. The Alberta study, 362 removed individuals, 57 capture events across 11 sites over 6 years, represents one of the most rigorous field datasets on the continent. The smallest pregnant female in that study measured 77.5 centimeters in body length and weighed 38 kilograms. The study was possible because it was funded, permitted, and staffed by a research institution operating in accessible agricultural country. Most encounters with very large specimens happen in conditions that are the opposite of that. Remote, unplanned, no capture equipment, no certified scale, no institutional protocol waiting to receive the data. The absence of a peer-reviewed record is not a measurement. It is a gap. Gaps have shapes, and this one has been widening for 30 years. In 2005, National Geographic exhumed the Georgia hog, measured it, weighed it, 8 feet long, 800 pounds. The original claim, 12 feet, 1,000 pounds, was wrong, but the correction missed the point. 800 pounds, standing in a ditch in Georgia. An animal that, by any prior reckoning of what the continent produced, should not have existed. Hogzilla was not the anomaly. Hogzilla was the announcement. The hybrid experiment had already been running for decades before that carcass was pulled from the ground. It is still running. The Canadian record, 638 pounds, documented by a University of Saskatchewan researcher across 14 seasons of fieldwork, sits at the northern edge of a range that expands by millions of square kilometers per decade. There is no ceiling established, no confirmed upper bound drawn from population data. Somewhere in the bottomlands, in the creek drainages, in the hardwood tangles no survey crew has walked. The experiment continues without observers. The Georgia hunter reported what he saw. The measurement was real. The question the measurement opened has not closed. A hybrid biology with no confirmed size ceiling is expanding across North America. The Georgia hunter's report opened a question that field science has not closed. The bottomlands keep their count. If that question stays with you, subscribe and tell us, how large do you think this experiment gets before someone finally measures it?